now we're going to go from the really micro in the centre of Hackney, and we're going to bring our sights out to the whole of England as we talk to Heena Davies from Learning Through Landscapes. And I actually met Heena because I volunteered to get involved in the programme she's going to give us a little insight into, My School, My Planet, last September. And I can honestly say it was one of the best things I personally have ever done. It was actually nearly 20 years since I'd last had control and charge of an entire year 5 group from 9 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. And not only did I do that, thankfully working with the head teacher, who was amazing, Kareen Faddy, we were outside from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. and my tarp tying skills got enormous, got huge. But it also made me realize that all these things that people have been talking about today, that when you're outside, you have to respond to the weather. It doesn't matter what you plan. It applies as much to year 5 as it does to year 2. And one last thing, of those 29 kids in that school in Hammersmith, only 5 of them have been out more than once a week in the previous 3 months.
Yeah.
Why My School, My Planet was so impactful. Heena.
Thank you, Kath. So I am going to just share with you the experiences that we had over a very crazy 6 months following lockdown, going into September, supporting schools across the UK. So I'm just going to share my screen. And I'm going to talk you through the My School, My Planet project, both from a UK perspective, but I'm going to drill into London as well, and some of the great, share just some of the great stories that Kath has started to share as well. She says, there we go. And this is one of my favourite images, and it just really brings to life for me the project, which is around supporting the mental health and well-being of children in disadvantaged ethnic and low-income backgrounds who have, you know, we see from Natural England research, every time they produce a report, it is these children that have the least connection to nature. They don't get outside as much. They don't get the rich experiences that their advantaged counterparts really had. And I think what was really lovely for us in this project was that this project was funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And one of their key things was that they wanted to open out this project to the most vulnerable across the UK. And so when we looked to working with schools, one of the biggest things we looked at was looking at their vulnerability within their schools and which pupils needed the most support. So what is My School, My Planet? It was a UK-wide project which supported children from disadvantaged ethnic groups and low socioeconomic backgrounds to improve their physical and mental well-being. What was great about this project was that it was an 8-week school grounds intervention piloted in 49 schools across the UK and designed specifically to support children as they came back from school back in September 2020 after the first lockdown. And at this point, just for a bit of context, we know that children really hadn't been into school grounds, or, you know, we didn't have that familiarity with school grounds anymore, or the structures of the school day. And so we were really passionate about helping the children that really needed it. And what did children do? So this was, as Kath said, it was a program that was delivered entirely outside, because obviously Learning Through Landscapes is an outdoor learning school grounds charity, and we believe at our heart that all learning should be outdoors and should be a fundamental part of a child's education. And therefore, we designed a program that aimed to develop children's knowledge in climate change, biodiversity and soils. Importantly, whilst we wanted to explore these issues, what we really wanted to do was connect children who may not have a really strong sense of place, both to their school and whatever community they felt most attached to. And therefore, I think Kath worked with children who had family from Somalia. So what we did actively throughout this programme was connect children both to whichever country they most associated with their school grounds, to try and give them a really strong sense of place. So where was My School, My Planet delivered? You will see that it was literally delivered through the length and breadth of the UK, from Northern Ireland all the way in Inverness in Scotland, all the way down to Southampton in Wales, and importantly throughout 6 schools in London, across lots of different areas of London, and again really focusing on recruiting those schools that really needed the most support in terms of their pupils. I think this map just shows the breadth of things that children discovered on this project, from pulling up an invasive species, to creating shelters for themselves, to visiting a mushroom factory because it was part of the children's local heritage. So just an amazing experience for children. So what impact did we have? Throughout this project, which was independently evaluated by the Centre for Education and Youth. So we did talk about this, this need for literature and for really robust and valid findings. And one of the things that we were really passionate about was making sure this project was independently evaluated. So we know that children came from 47 different ethnic backgrounds, but in addition to that, a high percentage of children were either pupil premium or free school meals as well. So we know that we were really supporting the children and families that needed the most support. What we did see, and we used universal scales of nature connection and well-being for children. So we wanted to compare to other data. What we saw that there was positive shifts in children's well-being just over 8 weeks, with physical well-being in particular really increasing. And I think what was really important has come out today: social well-being, just children being able to connect to other children, which they have missed, or they had missed through lockdown in particular. And finally, in terms of learning about heritage, what we saw again through knowledge quizzes that we gave was that children's understanding about really complex environmental issues really increased and improved across the 8 weeks. However, what I did want to do was link this back to climate change. And I think this is from ARC Bentworth, where Kath supported the pupils. And what we found through some qualitative research was that, and this wasn't just in ARC Bentworth, this was across all of our schools, children with the least connection to nature were either disinterested in the environment or really felt quite defeatist about the problems that we've got. They feel too big, they feel too global, they don't feel attached to it because quite often they don't have a really strong sense of place. And actually what this project did through, through working with people like Kath across the UK, was to really give children environmental agency, to get them to improve their school grounds and to mitigate against environmental problems that need to be solved, like climate change or the lack of biodiversity, and actually made them feel really optimistic about their future. So that's just a really quick overview of My School, My Planet. There's a lot of other brilliant outcomes that I could talk to you about for the whole day, but I just wanted to give you a quick sprinkling of the great things we achieved during that term last year.
Unmute myself. Thank you so much, Heena. It was one of the best things. It's like, what did you think in terms of London? What was the thing that really struck you about the London schools that got involved?
I think, I don't know if it's a London thing. What is really clear was all the school leaders that we worked with wanted to make sure that children had a sense of community, a sense of place, but connecting that to globally, to wherever children most were feeling attached to, and that sort of global to local relationship to me was the strongest in London. And I think that's obvious in many ways, but really came out as something very special as part of this project.
Yeah, no, I know we had a map of the world that we put little markers on from everywhere we had a connection to. It didn't have to be family, it was just we were all connected here, and then we put strings to wherever, and we found across the class of 29 children and the head teacher, the teacher, and 2 support assistants who at various times got involved. I think we had connections to 80 different countries.
Wow. Yeah.
And there wasn't one child who wasn't connected to at least 3 personally. I think there was one child who was 8 who'd lived in 8 different countries.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that was the experience of many of the children who participated in the project from London.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that also goes back to all of us, wherever we're from in the UK, we've all got these international connections, and that kick, that sense of place, the knowledge that we are from this place, whatever that place is, that we can have our feet on the ground and feel that we are grounded. It's a really important sense. I think that's come through all of the talks today, but this project really honed in on it.